Chicago prepares for the possibility of mass immigration raids. There are a lot of questions about how Trump's plan could work and also just the legal issues surrounding this.
Right, and joining us now to take a look at that issue is Professor Jacqueline Stevens, a political science professor and deportation expert at Northwestern University. We really appreciate you being with us this morning. Professor, how could the Trump administration actually carry out these raids? I mean, what might that process look like here in the city, for instance?
So it's expected that they'll be doing something pretty similar to what ICE has been doing in the past, which would be culling lists of people who have existing deportation orders, targeting them, and then showing up with, far more numbers of agents than would be necessary to just arrest that one person, but rather for the purpose of trying to interrogate and snag a lot of other people who might be in the vicinity, either people who are living with the person or people just in a building that is shared with somebody who's targeted. So they might have one name, but then they'll try to collect, dozens of people.
Wow. We want to get to is this plan legal, but I do want to ask you, because we were just talking about community groups being out mobilizing in neighborhoods. Based on your experience, 20 plus years in this area of expertise, what could we see on the ground tomorrow potentially or in the week to come in our neighborhoods here?
So as I mentioned, it would be maybe a dozen or so ICE agents, maybe without specific identification, showing up looking like SWAT teams and going to residential complexes that might be rather large with maybe hundreds of units, and they might go to one door, but while they're there they'll encounter other people and ask them questions about what their legal status is and so forth. And if people volunteer information, then they would arrest those people. They called the word that they use for that is collaterals.
And they have the right to do that?
Well, it depends. I mean, yes, if they just encounter somebody in a public space and the person volunteers that they're in the country without legal authorization, then that person is subject to being arrested. However, if they enter an apartment and they don't have a search warrant and they're not invited in, if they do things in a way that are, especially violent or outside the protocols, including the ways that it seems like some of this is being rolled out in Chicago without the authority at this moment to implement these plans, then the ICE agents themselves could be subject to state prosecutions if they are, arresting U.S. citizens or, otherwise violating people's rights, and they do so with what's called evil intent, in which case people could submit these as complaints to a Cook County prosecutor, and the ICE agents themselves could be subject to criminal prosecution. Again, this would be if they're acting outside the bounds of their authority and they do so with evil intent.
But, I have to follow up with that. I mean, that's one thing to say, talk about evil intent, but there might be a lot of folks, right, if they find themselves in this situation, who might not have the wherewithal or the knowledge to file a written complaint or call for help. I mean, is that a real concern there, that people might just be overwhelmed if this indeed comes to fruition?
Right. So in the moment, I mean, obviously people should not be putting themselves at risk for any kind of physical harm. The idea would be that subsequently they could record these kinds of incidents. And so again, it wouldn't be right in that moment. Somebody would have to endure whatever the violations are. The idea would be that later they should file a written complaint, even through the detention facility that's holding them. They should file a complaint with the Department of Justice, as many as possible. If the detention facility holding them says, oh, you know what, we don't have any forms, they should still just write something out on a piece of paper and submit it. Every detention facility is required to have a grievance process. And so if people are in custody and they believe that they've been treated unlawfully, they should take advantage of that grievance process. And this is especially true for people who are U.S. citizens and are being arrested, which is something that is a focus of the research that I do through the Deportation Research Clinic.
Can I ask one real quick question? You're going to have to do a yes or no, because we're running out of time. And that is, does the city sanctuary city status offer any legal protection ultimately?
No.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
And I wanted to ask that, so before we go, where can people go if they need to get, what do you think is one of the best resources to get information like this?
So I'm not a lawyer.
Yes.
I guess there's a lot of websites that are up right now that have Know Your Rights information. The Illinois ACLU, the National Immigrant Justice Center, is probably the best source. Again, the National Immigrant Justice Center, which is based in Chicago.